Welcome back. This is lesson 1.3, subtracting integers. In the previous two videos, we talked about adding numbers with the same sign and adding numbers with different signs. Now we're going to talk about subtracting integers to kind of round it all out. And if you know how to add integers, subtracting integers uses similar rules. Before we do, I would like to model it using a number line so you can kind of see what happens when you subtract negatives or when you subtract positives. So let's take a look at this first example. We have -1 and we're taking away 5. Okay, so we have a rule here when using a number line. If we're subtracting a positive number, like we are in this situation, we move to the left. If we're subtracting a negative number, which we're not doing in this scenario, we move to the right. Otherwise, all of our steps stay the same. Okay, our first number is where we start, which is why mine starts at -1. My second number tells me what direction to go. So since it's subtracting a 5, subtracting a positive, I go to the left. I go 5 spaces to the left, and I end up on -6. Therefore, -1 minus 5 is -6. It's important to kind of see that I started a negative, I took away 5 more, I end up at a bigger negative. So when you subtract away a positive, your number gets smaller. When you subtract away a negative, your answer actually gets larger. Take a second, try the next two, come back to the video, and I'll go over them with you. So hopefully you took a second, pause the video, and try these two on your own. Okay, so I always start at my first number. In this case, I'm going to start at +3. I'm taking away a negative. Again, when I subtract a negative, I move to the right. So I'm going to go 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, to the right. And you can see when I take away a -3, my answer is +6. If you take away a negative, your number actually gets larger. Okay, let's check the next one. We have +3, and we're subtracting 7. Since we're taking away a positive, we move to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I end up at -4. So start with the first number, and your second number tells you whether you're going to move left or right. Okay, and where you end up is your answer. That's modeling with a number line. Hopefully it got you to see the pattern of taking away a negative, you end up with a bigger number. Taking away a positive, you end up with a smaller number. If not, you'll see it in the next slide when we talk about the rule for what to do when you're subtracting integers. So just like we did for adding with the same sign or adding with different signs, we have a rule for when subtracting integers. Okay, the rule to remember is addition of the opposite. Okay, and I'll explain what that means as we do the problem. Example 1 says, the temperature on Wednesday was -2 degrees Celsius. The next day, it was -8 degrees Celsius. Find the difference in temperatures between the 2 days. We see difference, we know we're talking about subtraction. Okay, so the first thing we do is write our expression down. We started with -2, subtract away -8. Okay, so I'm subtracting a -8. Step 2, use addition of the opposite to rewrite the expression. We keep the first one the same. We change every subtraction problem to an addition problem. So as long as you know your addition rules, subtraction should be easy. Keep the first one the same, still -2. Change my subtraction to addition, which I did down here. Okay, and then change the sign. So addition of the opposite. I want the opposite of -8, which is +8. So I am essentially not subtracting. I'm turning all of my subtraction problems into an addition problem. I might subtract from there, but it helps me to figure out which rule is the best one to use. Okay, so now I have a new problem, and that problem is -2 plus +8. I think about my rules for adding different signs. When I have different signs, I subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. So I do 8 minus 2 is 6. Since 8 is the larger absolute value, my answer stays positive. I could write my positive sign or I could not write my positive sign. Doesn't matter. But my answer is +6. Okay, let's do another example to kind of try and help you out. So in our second example, we have the problem 13 minus a negative 5. If I think back to my number line, I know if I'm taking away a negative, I'm going to be more positive, so that'll help me to check myself when I'm finished with my answer. So I need to remember addition of the opposite. So I write my expression. It's already written for me, 13 minus negative 5. Okay, then I do addition of the opposite. I keep the first number the same, keep it 13, change subtraction to addition, and do the opposite of my second number. Negative 5 becomes positive 5. Now I just have the problem 13 plus 5. I'm adding numbers with the same sign, two positives. I add them, keep the sign. Never get confused because there's a lot of rules, and sometimes we get confused and we'll see an easy number like 13 plus 5 and we'll still think, do I have to put a negative? 13 plus 5 is 18. Okay, don't overcomplicate something that you already know. Okay, so again, addition of the opposite. I change it to subtraction to addition. I do the opposite of my second number, and then I follow whatever addition rules fits for that problem. Pause the video, try it on your own section, come back, we'll go over the answers together. So we have two practice problems here I'd like to walk through pretty slowly. These are two different scenarios, two different situations that you might come across. So remember, I do addition of the opposite. So the first thing I want to do is change my subtraction to addition and do the opposite of the next number. It was negative 10, so now it's positive 10. Now I have an addition problem with different signs. I follow my rule. I subtract 17 minus 10 is 7. 17 has a larger absolute value, so I keep the sign. My answer is negative 7. So I was subtracting, I changed to addition, in the end I subtract. I know it's confusing, but just follow the rules and you'll start to see the pattern and it'll be much easier. Let's look at the second problem. 44 minus 75. 75 is bigger than 44, so I know I'm going to end up with a negative number as my answer. But I still want to go through, follow my pattern. Okay, 44, change subtraction to addition, change positive 75 to negative 75. I'm going to put it in parentheses so I don't get confused with a plus and a minus right next to each other. Different signs. I do 75 minus 44, which is 31. 75 is a larger absolute value, so I keep the negative sign. Okay? Hopefully you understand this. If not, the more you practice it, the more repetition, the easier the pattern will become, the better you will do at this. Okay? Hopefully you understand. If not, please make sure you contact me. Okay? Hopefully you have the notes that go along with this. If not, click the link for the teacher page below. If you're confused about anything, leave a comment, contact me, do whatever you have to do.